So the three most tragic dates of my lifetime have got to be September 11th, 2001, January 6th, 2021, and October 7th, 2023. 9/11 wasn't only atrocious because that was the first time Disneyland didn't open during my lifetime. They only did that once before, on the day JFK was assassinated, and the only time they've closed since 9/11 was during COVID. The attacks on 9/11 killed 2,977 people from 90 different nations. 2,753 people were killed in New York, 184 were killed at the Pentagon, and 40 people were killed on Flight 93. Al-Qaeda took credit for the attacks, led by Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri, both of whom asserted that they launched the attacks because of Israeli occupation of Palestine, as they called it. January 6th happened because the American Al-Qaeda, those guys that like to shoot up synagogues like the Tree of Life, kidnap governors like Gretchen Whitmer, and murder the children of federal judges like Esther Salas. Anyway, they were commanded by their Führer, Donald Trump, to, quote, fight like hell. And we almost lost the world's oldest surviving democratic republic. Not nearly as many people died as with 9/11, but in some ways it was even more poignant because it came from within. And a few of the police that survived January 6th were so traumatized, they actually took their own lives. It was very similar to the beer hall push in 1923, where Adolf Hitler shot a gun off in a tavern before whipping up a bunch of goons by telling them that they have to fight Marxism and overthrow the Bavarian government or they'd be dead by dawn. Another striking similarity between Trump and Hitler is that Trump's first assassination attempt occurred on the 80th anniversary of the Valkyrie plot, which is where fellow Nazis tried to take Hitler out with a bomb. He survived, obviously, but it did leave his right ear permanently damaged. How weird is that? Trump was also born almost exactly a year after Hitler died, and I wonder how long it takes for a demon to respawn. They had a similar diet of amphetamines and kids' food. They're both known for sleeping in past noon, ridiculing political opponents, lying incessantly, and telling their supporters not to believe the news. But perhaps I'm completely off base. Maybe comparing Trump to Hitler is totally out of line. After all, Hitler didn't weasel out of his military service. He didn't need Russia's help getting elected, and he actually wrote his own book. So let's instead take a look at some of the ways you can spot the Antichrist. As it says in Thessalonians, he is the lawless one. So think of someone with 91 indictments and 34 felony convictions. Is he a loud-mouthed boaster? That's from Daniel 7. Is he the arrogant one? Revelation 13. Is he a pathological liar? Daniel 8. And perhaps even the father of lies, which we get from the book of John. There's close to 100,000 false or misleading statements. He ran a scam school and fraudulent charities that federal judges ordered him to repay tens of millions in damages, including to United States veterans and senior citizens. Is he a builder of towers? Yeah, he even puts his name on them. That's from Genesis 10. Does he routinely break treaties? That's Daniel 9. Think Paris Climate Accord and the Iran deal. Maga in Latin means witch, magic, or sorcerer. His original German name equals 666. Donald is 6 letters. John in German is Johann, which is also 6 letters. And Drumpf is 6 letters. And his family owns 666 Fifth Avenue. Does he demand constant worship? That's Revelation 13. Is he a man of sin? Matthew 24. Think Stormy Daniels, Jeffrey Epstein. Does he lure the church to follow him with false prophecies? Corinthians 11 and Matthew 24. Did he brag that he's the chosen one, as foretold by Thessalonians 2 when he told Sean Hannity that he is an absolutely perfect person? He placed his own red hat MAGA mark on the foreheads of his followers. That's also in Revelation 13. Also, if you invert the word red hat, you get hatred. He implemented a new family separation policy and tore children from their parents at the border. Most recent reports count exactly 666 migrant children still, quote, missing. This was confirmed by Forbes, NBC, and The Independent. He's a false prophet that fooled millions of evangelicals, just as the beast is supposed to have done in Revelation. He redirects Jesus' followers toward violence, bigotry, and hatred. He armed the Saudi Arabians against Yemen, driving 5 million people, including many Yemeni Jews, to famine. He openly encouraged state violence against peaceful protesters while holding an upside-down Bible. He tried to end, dismantle, and damage the military systems and alliances which are in place to help keep peace in the world. That includes NATO. He complained that his generals weren't totally loyal like Hitler's were. He removed our troops from Syria, which were there in part to help keep Israel safe. He called COVID-19 a Democrat hoax before the virus wiped out 1 million American lives. He told Jewish journalist Jake Turks to sit down and shut up just for asking about the uptick in anti-Semitic attacks. That was when Trump said he was the least racist person that he knows, which is not a good thing, by the way. He also told Jake that he is everything that's wrong with the media. He's the only president ever to side with Russia over 17 of our military intelligence agencies. Yeah, he was tough on Iran. That's one of the few things he got right. But when you're cozying up to Iran's best friend, which is Vladimir Putin, it kind of becomes a moot point. And just look at what Trump wrote at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem, in all caps, by the way. "It is a great honor to be here with all of my friends. So amazing, and we'll never forget." Compare that to what Obama wrote, who, unlike Trump, was awarded the Presidential Medal of Distinction by the Israeli government. I am grateful to Yad Vashem and all of those responsible for this remarkable institution. At a time of great peril and promise, war and strife, we are blessed to have such a powerful reminder of man's potential for great evil, but also our capacity to rise up from tragedy and remake our world. Let our children come here and know this history so that they can add their voices to proclaim never again. And may we remember those who perished, not only as victims, but also as individuals who hoped and loved and dreamed like us, and who have become symbols of the human spirit. You can also compare and contrast some of Trump and Obama's comments about the White House. One of them called it sacred. The other one called it a dump. And I know Trump gets credit for moving the embassy to Jerusalem, but Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein helped make that happen as well. And take a look at Bibi's face while Trump was speaking at Vashem. He's like, who the hell is this guy? What on earth is he talking about? Look, they don't respect him. Same with Putin. Yeah, he might be a useful idiot every once in a while, but remember how Trump was too scared to go out in the rain at that memorial service? And just a couple of days later, Putin stood out there in the heavy rain, no umbrella, no raincoat, not even a hat. The water was completely soaking through, ruining his suit, just so that he could stick it to Trump and show what a weak coward America had as a president. He's known to consort with sex workers, thieves, and despots. Just look at how many of his own official staff have gone to prison for things they did under Trump's direction. Paul Manafort, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, Rick Gates, Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen, Tom Barack, and George Papadopoulos. He was the first president ever to refuse a peaceful transition of power, inciting the attempted execution of his own vice president. Mike Pence and his wife had to go into hiding for several months because of that. And Chuck Grassley, the senior-most Republican senator, tweeted that he was prepared to fill in for Pence that day as they, quote, do not expect him to be there, proving that this was a concerted effort, not to mention Pence's key card being deactivated, and he said that he refused to get into the car that was sent for him because he didn't recognize the driver who showed up. It's no surprise why Pence won't endorse Trump this time around. Then again, even Trump's own daughter, the Jewish one, refused to endorse her father. Same with Jared Kushner. Now, who knows if that was over January 6th or Trump hosting Holocaust deniers at Mar-a-Lago, but I can't even imagine how different the media reaction would be if Hunter Biden was refusing to endorse his own father. One thing I know for sure is that presidential terms can be a little bit like movies. You know, when the first one was really bad, the sequel is usually much, much worse. So this brings me to our third date in infamy, October 7th, the most lethal attack on Jewish people since World War II. I woke up in the worst back pain of my life that day, and that was before I even heard the news. I had no idea about it. And I had to go to the ER. It took a whole month for the pain to subside. By then, I'd heard about the attacks. And it reminds me of the Rashi quote that we are all different limbs of the same body. Now, those attacks on October 7th happened for the same reason as 9/11. The terrorists do not believe that there should be a Jewish state. These are the same genocidal maniacs and colonizers that spent the past century ethnically cleansing 75,000 Jews from Egypt, 150,000 Jewish people from Iraq, 140,000 Jews from Algeria, 55,000 Jews in Yemen, 20,000 Jews in Lebanon, 40,000 in Syria, 38,000 in Libya, 265,000 Jews ethnically cleansed in Morocco, and 105,000 in Tunisia. That comes to close to 1 million Jewish people who lost their homes and their lives in the Middle East, and this was after the Holocaust. How many watermelons went on display for them? Or for the Palestinians who are treated exponentially worse in Syria and Lebanon than they are on the Israeli side of the border? There were no screams of genocide or colonization when Jordan annexed the West Bank or when Gaza was controlled by Egypt. The Islamic imperialists have treated Jewish people a lot like the European settlers who tried to exterminate every single one of the Native Americans. And thank goodness neither were successful. Imagine Israel becoming a majority Muslim country with a government composed of nothing but Muslims. They already have a lot of Muslims in their government because it's a multicultural democracy. But just bear with me here. Let's say they change their name to Palestine, which, by the way, is not an indigenous name. It comes from when the Romans removed the indigenous people from their ancestral home. They took the Hebrews out in captivity and renamed the land after the Philistines out of spite, because that's who the Hebrews had been at war with in Greece. Imagine also that Israel, while making these changes, maintained the exact same policies toward Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. Would anyone even care? They certainly didn't when Ariel Sharon forced close to 7,000 Jews out of their homes that some of their families had been in for 4 whole centuries. If you don't see how lopsided the demonization is, you must be delusional. Golda Meir, the former prime minister of Israel, said something very profound, which is that we can forgive the Arabs for killing our sons, but not for forcing us to kill their sons. Peace will come when the Arabs love their children more than they hate us. There's also the account of a concentration camp survivor who prayed every single day that he was in the camp. And when he got out, people were like, "Yeah, a lot of good those prayers did you." And he was like, "Yeah, they did do a lot of good. Because I never became like them. I kept my dignity, and unlike the Nazis, I never lost my humanity." You know, I've been to a lot of different Jewish events, and I often hear people there praying for peace and praying for the safety of Palestinians, often citing Genesis, where it says that we were all created in God's image. Unfortunately, there is no such sentiment in the Quran. Instead, they call us apes and pigs. And have you ever heard Muslims praying for the safety of Israelis? If so, I'd love to hear about it. heard a lot of calls for an immediate ceasefire, but not so much for an immediate release of the hostages, some of whom are only 17 months old. Imagine if there was only one state in the U.S. where black people could get citizenship and serve in government. Yet there are protesters constantly calling for boycotts and divestments just from that one state. Let's say it's Mississippi. Would you believe all of those protesters if they said that the boycotts had nothing to do with hating black people? They just happened to single out the only black state on earth, but they got nothing against black people. Yeah, that's totally feasible. And what if Cuba coordinated with 6 other nations to launch thousands of missiles at Mississippi and murdered over 1,200 people at a music festival and a hippie commune, aka kibbutz, and vowed never to stop until all black people are wiped out of Mississippi? And the response was that the victims of the attack need to stop defending themselves and basically lay down and die? Would there be chance of "From the river to the Gulf, Mississippi shall be free"? Kind of reminds me of the Bob Dylan song, Neighborhood Bully. Well, the neighborhood bully, he's just one man. His enemies say he's on their land. They got him outnumbered about 1,000,000 to 1. He's got no place to escape to, no place to run. The neighborhood bully, he just lives to survive. He's criticized and condemned just for being alive. He's not supposed to fight back. He's supposed to have thick skin. He's supposed to lay down and die when his door is kicked in. He's the neighborhood bully driven out of every land. He's wandered the earth an exiled man, seen his family scattered, his people hounded and torn. He's always on trial just for being born. He's the neighborhood bully. Oh, well, he knocked out a lynch mob. He was criticized. Old women condemn him, said he should apologize. Then he destroyed a bomb factory. Nobody was glad. The bombs were meant for him. He was supposed to feel bad. He's the neighborhood bully. Well, the chances are against it, and the odds are slim, that he'll live by the rules that the world makes for him. 'Cause there's a noose at his neck and a gun at his back, and a license to kill him is given to every maniac. He's the neighborhood bully. Well, he's got no allies really to speak of. What he gets, he must pay for. He don't get it out of love. He buys obsolete weapons, and he won't be denied. But no one sends flesh and blood to fight by his side. He's the neighborhood bully. Well, he's surrounded by pacifists who all want peace. They pray for it nightly, that the bloodshed must cease. Now they won't hurt a fly. To hurt one, they would weep. They lay and they wait for this bully to fall asleep. Every empire that's enslaved him is gone. Egypt and Rome, even the great Babylon. He's made a garden of paradise in the desert sand, in bed with nobody, under no one's command. He's the neighborhood bully. Now his holiest books have been trampled upon. No contract that he signed was worth what it was written on. He took the crumbs of the world, and he turned it into wealth, took sickness and disease, and he turned it into health. He's the neighborhood bully. What's anybody indebted to him for? Nothing, they say. He just likes to cause war. Pride and prejudice and superstition indeed. They wait for this bully like a dog waits for feed. He's the neighborhood bully. What has he done to wear so many scars? Does he change the course of rivers? Does he pollute the moon and the stars? Neighborhood bully standing on the hill, running out the clock. Time standing still. Thank you, Bob. The U.S. has taken in 3.6 million Muslim refugees in recent years, and Europe has accepted twice that amount. Yet there's no shortage of space in Muslim countries. We're talking 30 million square miles. Compare that to Israel's 8,000 square miles. And there's no cash flow problem either. The Qatari, Turkish, and Iranian financiers of Hamas and Hezbollah are worth billions of dollars. They could easily take in Gazans and West Bankers if they wanted to, but having a Palestinian conflict is kind of like having a goose that laid the golden egg. You've always got a cause to help with fundraising and recruitment. It's kind of like how the right wing in America liked having legal abortion. That way they could always say, hey, vote Republican, the other side kills babies. Or they're going to come after your guns. Or make gay marriage legal. Too late. Well, then let's start picking on trans people instead. And by the way, there's nothing in the Hebrew nor Christian Bibles about abortion except in Book of Numbers when God actually provides Moses with abortion tips. And Jesus never even spoke about abortion, but he was fiercely opposed to the death penalty. And I don't hear a lot of conservatives calling for that to be done away with. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Hamas terrorists actually live-streamed the attack, which is not something actual soldiers do. That's what people like the QAnon shooter did when he shot up a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's the work of terrorist scum, not freedom fighters. Some of the footage featured an Israeli man's head being sliced off by a terrorist who actually took the head with him like it was some sort of a depraved talisman. This is the type of behavior expected from a serial killer, or maybe RFK Jr., but not someone who thinks of himself as a soldier. There are 139 murders shown in the nearly 50-minute reel. Women are seen suffering through the aftermath of sexual assault, and you can see burnt babies and corpses of children. And the perpetuators aren't saying things in the background like, oh yeah, war is hell, but I can't believe they drove me to do this. No, they're celebrating. They're saying, Allah Akbar, God is great, and that these are the corpses of dogs. And dogs are not revered in the Arabic world. I read a fascinating account of one of the freed hostages. Her name is Maran Stella Yaneh, and she was held by Hamas for 54 days. She endured mental torture, physical malnourishment, lack of essential hygiene, and food poisoning that nearly left her body lifeless multiple times. But now, she's emerged as a lioness of Judah. She doesn't want your pity, but she is asking for your light. She's urging us to light up the Shabbat candles and blast the shofar as we fill the world with hope, joy, and optimism. Of course, we pray for the safe return of the remaining 101 hostages, including 4 American citizens, and we pray for peace and the end of all wars. But we cannot surrender to despair. You know, part of why Rosh Hashanah translates as head of the year is that the better your year starts off, the easier it is to maintain that equilibrium throughout the year, just as your head dictates the rest of your body. The mind doesn't function as well while depressed, particularly when it comes to decision-making. And King Solomon spoke of divine joy, something mystical that brings out the best in you, and happens to be synonymous with revealing what is hidden, like extracting wine from grapes. Like the plumber who descended through sewage into the underworld to grapple with reptilian powers so that he could extract a beautiful princess from one of the world's darkest dungeons and declare, with divine joy, "It's a me, Mario." Hey, you can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. See you on the dance floor.